So sorry. Of course, we've had the worst problem with internet today.
So it's great to see you.
You too?
I believe we're live right now since Emily is gone, so I'm going to start by welcoming everyone. And what we are doing today is Diablo Magazine's Hot August Happy Hour. We're very excited to welcome Portia from the Coop, and let me just kind of give you some basics from the get-go. So we started this for our August issue in celebration of the end of summer, the start of school, the need for some relaxation at this time, and just to get an opportunity to really come together as a community and kind of celebrate some of the fun stuff at this particular time. So we are going to, let me start off by introducing myself. I'm Rachel Orby, and I'm the senior editor at Diablo Magazine. I'll be filling in for Ethan Fletcher, our food editor, who is on vacation before he jumps into the next round of fall. And we are welcoming our very special guest, Portia Battistini from the Coop. Before we jump into our wonderful cocktail recipe here, I want to give you some basics on Zoom. This conversation is being recorded. We might have an opportunity for questions for Portia and all of her mixology skills toward the end of this portion, toward the end portion of this discussion. And we will be hosting these happy hours throughout the month of August with wonderful bartenders from the East Bay, people that are doing tremendous work in keeping their businesses going in this time and have wonderful outdoor spaces to enjoy dining and drinking opportunities. And were kind enough to share their cocktail recipes with Diablo for, as I said, this lovely cover. So I'm going to bring this back because I want to show what I think is the most beautiful cocktail that we have. And this is courtesy of Portia and the Coop. It is gorgeous. So we're going to be discussing how to make the Coop, or otherwise known as a gin and tonic, today. So what you're going to need for this, just so you can get prepared while Portia and I talk, is you're going to need gin and tonic. And then we have some special other ingredients that we'll add for garnishes, etc. But before we get into the actual mixing, Portia, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get into bartending?
Sure. So I was working at a hair salon, and right below it, when I turned 21, there was a lovely nightclub called Shaboom's. So I started waitressing down there, and I just absolutely loved the energy of being in a nightclub and the fun and the late nights. And I just turned 21, so I really just loved the atmosphere. So I started with that, and then within 6 months, I was behind the bar, and I've worked my way up from dive bars to nightclubs and now to the beautiful cooperage with fresh ingredients. So I'm very lucky to be here.
So we love the cooperage, now known as the Coop. Can you tell me a little bit? There's been a transformation in the last year. Obviously, the Cooperage American Grill has been a mainstay in Lafayette for a while. It's a wonderful community gathering place with a tremendous outdoor space, but it's gone through some reinvention lately. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, we tried to reinvent. We did a little remodel of the inside, raised a few of the booths, redecorated everywhere, and obviously we went under new ownership, a new chef, so we have a brand new menu as far as the food goes, and just tried to been about 5 years, just kind of retransform everything a little bit and, bring a little more liveliness to the community. So
wonderful. And I know that you have, like many people, but have also expanded your outdoor space in recent months or recent weeks.
Yeah. So we already have the really large, beautiful patio on the side, and we actually have the opportunity, being in Lafayette, to expand out to the parking lot on the side. So we have a huge outdoor patio with a little putting, we call it the putting green. It's a beautiful outdoor patio with umbrellas and everything. So it's enough space to hold everybody that we had inside also, which is great.
So obviously people are thrilled to go back and enjoy some outdoor dining, retreat to some of their old haunts. What has customer response been like to people coming back to the Coop?
Oh, people are loving it. Just like a little bit of normalcy, I think, having a nice cocktail, enjoying something that they don't have to cook for themselves or wash the dishes. I mean, I know I felt the same way, being able to get back to it. So People are loving it. We're getting a good response.
That's wonderful. We're happy to have you back. Obviously, what we're doing here is summer cocktails. So tell me a little bit about the Coop, the cocktail, the G&T.
So our G&T has been a staple here for the 6 years that we've been open. It was one of the original gin and tonics that we brought on the menu. And we've expanded that to now the Spanish, which is also a favorite for Lafayette. And then I try and do one seasonal one, which right now is the butterfly effect. Also pictured in there, it's that beautiful indigo blue jewel tone gin. So that's become a staple. But the cooperage, I like to keep ingredients local and gin local, and that this was one of the starts. So it's a beautiful gin, St. George. It's from Alameda, all really local, and that's been a fan favorite for many years now.
Wonderful. Well, let's pull these ingredients and we'll talk a little bit about them before we actually start mixing up the medicine, as they may say. So you mentioned St. George, Alameda Brewer, or Alameda Distillery. So why is this a special drink?
Personally, I love the gin. What they say about this one is it's local to Alameda. They say it mimics Mount Tam, so it has a lot of those fir, Douglas, laurel leaf, a little bit heavy on the juniper notes. So it's like a true gin drinker's gin, I would say. And I feel like gin has evolved a lot because a lot of people used to think like, oh, grandma drank the gin and tonics, and it's almost like a medicinal taste, but now we've come into craft and they use all these fresh ingredients, and this one's one of my favorites. Lots of different notes in there.
And then, of course, so then we get to the second ingredient, the tonic. So this is a Fever Tree Mediterranean tonic. Why is that one of your preferred options?
I really like this tonic. Obviously, it has a lot of different notes in it. It has a little less quinine in it, which brings the bitterness of the tonic. This one has a little bit of rosemary and lemon thyme notes in it too, so it's going to be a little less bitter and a little more citrus, fragrant, and floral. So that's why I really like it. I think it brings out, all the herbs and the notes in the gin.
So I love all of the aromatics and all the garnishings you have on this. So mine have gotten a little wilty in this heat, but you mentioned in addition to obviously having a lime, we've got sage, we've got juniper berries, and then these are just so beautiful.
It's so warm though. They probably got a little wilty.
They're a little wilty, yeah, they're a little wilty. They do make up that gorgeous drink though. And then finally, the last addition is the laurel leaf. And so in terms of, you were kind enough to supply me with these garnishes. In terms of the kind of average reader that might want to make this at home, where do you recommend people finding, for instance, edible flowers? These are the viola flower.
So we do purchase those through my produce company. They are kind of harder to come by, this particular type violas. We are selling the gin and tonic kits that I had prepared for you also for pickup. So it includes all the ingredients there. But if you were looking for something that's kind of like it, I know that Whole Foods does have some edible flowers that they do for cake decorating. To be honest with you, it's really more of the herbs and the lime that make the difference. The flowers are really just make it beautiful and visual.
They are beautiful.
It doesn't make a big difference to it.
How about, obviously, sage we can get at the grocery store. How about the juniper berries and the laurels? They're a particular...
Juniper berries, you're going to want to try and look at like a health food store. They usually have them there in the spice aisle, so those aren't too hard to come by.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to ask you a little bit more about some of the specialties that you mentioned. You recommended that you make this lovely drink in a lovely wine glass versus your more typical rocks glass, even though it may be more manly, as you put it. What are the reasons for that?
Honestly, we do get a few of the guys that come in and they say, we love your gin and tonics, but we don't want the fluff in there. So that would be manly rocks glass. But
Okay.
I prefer the visual. We use those beautiful ice spheres, which I think you'll have, which you'll see in a little bit. Visually in the wine glass, I think with all the aromatics, it gives you a little bit, almost like tasting wine. You're getting all the aromatics when you swirl the glass, when you add the tonic, and just visually, it's just beautiful in that glass.
So you had a description in our magazine, and forgive me, I've got to go look for it, but you likened this to a walk on Mount Tam or a walk in the forest. Do you recall your description? Obviously with the aromatics, it's got that really herbal feel to it.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Oh, I believe you likened it to a walk on Mount Tam, or you were mentioning like the aromatics, the herbal aspects to it.
Yeah. So they really tried to mimic that gin from Mount Tam. So if you kind of open it up and give it a little smell, you'll find those aromatics. You'll find like a little bit of Douglas. It has a lot more herbaceous scent than a citrus scent. So I just think they pair beautifully with it. And then the local ingredients, so that's local to Alameda. So.
All right, great. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and then I'm going to go get my ice out of the freezer because I didn't want my cylinder melting. You mentioned specifically using cylindrical ice. What's the advantage of something like that? And I'll show our viewers in a minute what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the whiskey drinkers will know this and whatnot, but obviously visually it looks beautiful, but also a little less dilution. It slows the dilution process, so you're going to enjoy your quality gin a little bit longer. And
in terms of the tonic, do you chill it? Is there anything in this mix that we need to chill ahead of time, or is it all?
For me, the bar here, I do prefer to have everything chilled as I make the drinks. But it doesn't really, when you have that spherical ice in there, it really cools it down fast. Yeah, I would throw the gin in the freezer. It just gives it a little more of a crisp taste.
And while I go get my cylindrical ice, maybe you can speak to, if you don't have that kind of thing, is there a preferred ice cube?
Sure. So I mean, it's all preference on what ice you use. You can just use cubed ice if you don't. They have all different square rocks. It really doesn't matter, but with all of the elements that you're adding to it, I think it just sits nicely around the sphere. So when you do give it a swirl, you are getting all of those aromatics. So ice is all preference, but if you do, I mean, you can pretty much find these spheres anywhere now. They have them at Bevmo, Total Wine, so they're really accessible for you to be able to make at home.
Wonderful. Well, let's get started. So do you want to talk me through this? I've got my, what comes first?
Okay, so first of all, we're going to go ahead and add the ice sphere. A little trick to adding your ice sphere is you're going to want to hold your glass at an angle and almost roll your sphere in so it doesn't break the glass.
Think a little bit too much.
Okay, so as you roll it in, it's just a little bit easier that way. So I can move down a little bit. Can you see my cocktail?
I cannot. I can see your lovely glass, though. I see the sphere. Cheers.
Okay, next we're going to go ahead and add the gin. So we have the Forge.
And this was 2 ounces, correct?
2 ounces, yes. So a little trick on that, I was trying to think for you people at home too. Obviously I see you have your jigger there, so you're all measured out, ready to go. But I was trying to think of a little trick. I like to think it's about a 3-fingered depth. So as they measure scotch, if you're looking at your glass, you're looking about a 3-finger height. Yeah, about that. Otherwise, if you have, you can just use your jigger, and it's about 2 ounces.
Okay, wonderful. Is there a particular way we pour? Anything the pros would advise?
Just slide it on in there over
Slide it on. All right. A little island in the stream. Okay, so we've got our gin.
So we've got our gin. Next, I would drop in the juniper, so they're just going to sit in the essence of the gin. So we have 3 of those go in. If you like a little bit of a heavier gin, more derived gin taste or juniper taste, it's all preference. If you wanted to add a few more, completely up to you.
Great.
Next, I like to take the bay leaf or the laurel leaf.
Okay. And is that the same thing? Does it matter if you, because obviously you can get the bay leaf at the grocery store versus.
It's the same thing. It's just almost like a prettier name for it, I like to say.
All right. Okay, so that just goes in on the side there?
In there.
Okay.
That's fine. That's next. And then we're going to add our lime wheel. And I know that me and you kind of discussed that. So the limes you can have, I love the wheel. It's just visually more appealing when you put it into the glass. If you like a little fresh lime juice in there too, you can always cut them into your wedges and give it a little squeeze before you add. Then next we're gonna add the sage leaf.
Okay. Oh, it's so pretty already. Not as pretty as yours, but colorful.
Yep, looking nice and green and herby. And then last but not least, our flowers, just to make it look beautiful.
All
So
right.
I usually add about 3, and then my little trick is to place them on like lily pads, so the top is facing upright.
Okay. And is it on the ice or just floating in the?
They can float around the ice on the side of the ice.
Wonderful.
Beautiful. And that's pretty much the key to the perfect gin and tonic after we add our tonic.
And Fever-Tree, is it readily available anywhere? I know I've seen it at Leonardi's. Is it
and honestly, they have the whole brand. I know that you said your husband loves it too. So they have the whole brand. I mean, they have a grapefruit flavor now. They have a cucumber tonic. They have an elderflower one. The elderflower one's beautiful with the gin and tonic. So yeah, so basically I usually start and I have the whole bottle. How I usually pour at the Coop is I add about half in, and then I allow you to taste. And if you want a little more, it's all up to your preference. So pour about half in. We're gonna cheers and take a little sip.
Oh, look at that.
And I always say that because I want you to appreciate the flavor of the gin first, so it's not overtaken by the tonic. So you get a little bit of those aromatics, you can take a sip and then add a little more.
Do you need to mix, do anything, or swirl it to mix it, or it's all you go?
The way that we build it with the gin at the bottom and then building all those, when you pour in the tonic over the ice spirit, it gently mixes it itself. So it's great.
Oh, it smells delicious. All right. So Portia, thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That is delicious. Very refreshing, especially on a heat wave day. So that's wonderful. For me, the tonic is just about right. Would you recommend, you could say it's just a matter of taste if you want to do more?
Preference, you know, like I said, a lot of people, and then I do have the 3 other options on my menu. So the Spanish, I would say, is a little bit of a softer gin. This one's a little more herbaceous, so it's all preference on your palate if you want to add a little bit more. I'm like you, I just like half because I like to be able to taste, you know, the quality of everything.
Right.
So.
Well, this is beautiful. So I know that you also shared with Diablo a variation on this recipe, and I do not have the variation, but perhaps you can talk me through it and I'll just sit here and sip my beautiful cocktail.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have, do you want to have Lexi make me a butterfly in a Spanish? Perfect. So I have 2 other ones on our menu. Our Spanish one is with the Barcelona Gin Raw. It's a beautiful cardamom citrus flavored gin. This one we pair with rosemary and grapefruit and juniper berries. I would say this is a softer approach. It's a little more floral in flavor, where this one, the cooperage, is a little more herbaceous. And then my seasonal one, which is really fun right now, I am using this beautiful jewel toned.
Oh, that is gorgeous bottle.
I know, isn't it gorgeous? So this is the Empress 1908 Indigo Gin. And this one was designed, it's basically made with a butterfly pea blossom, which is a dark, it kind of has an earthier taste. But basically it's just for the color of the gin. And it acts really nice with citrus or quinine. So comes out as this dark blue tone. And then I'll show you, she's making me a little sample right now. As soon as you add the tonic, it turns into this beautiful bright pink fuchsia color. So it's kind of a fun. And this one I do with grapefruit, junipers, and pink peppercorns. So it's got a little more spice to it.
So I've got to ask you, you obviously have a great visual sense when it comes to something, at least the cocktails that you're sharing with us. Is the look of the cocktail, does it kind of elevate the whole thing, or is it all strictly about the taste, or it is kind of a little bit of both?
I like to say a little bit of both. I have always, going into a lot of bars and working with different cocktail programs has always been my thing to, I will never want to put out something that I personally wouldn't want to drink. So if I don't like the flavor profile or I'm not going to put out something that I think might work. I want people to really like latch on to it. So that's important with the fresh ingredients. Yeah. Okay. Fresh ingredients. Yeah, I love them visually. I think that's the first thing when you sit at a table. As soon as you get a cocktail, it doesn't matter what it tastes like. If it looks beautiful, you're taking a picture of it. It's going on Instagram. I like to combine the two. I want something that's visually beautiful, but also tastes fantastic, and you can have multiple of.
Right, right. In terms of, I know you said the picture quality. Obviously, people love to pair their cocktails with the perfect food item. You and I talked about that a little bit. Was there a particular Coop item or something that people could do at home that pair well with this drink?
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you before, I think everything goes well with gin and tonic. But preferably, I would like to say, you know, I think they're great for summer, something lighter if you're doing a cheese board or a fruit platter or even barbecuing outside. It's something that, you know, you can just throw together. It keeps nice and cold, keeps you relaxed. So I think, I mean, salmon, any seafood, I mean, it's as well, depending on which gin you like.
Yeah,
you know, yeah. Steak or something heavier, then I would probably go for the Cooperage. It's a little more herbaceous, cuts through. If you're sticking with something lighter, then something like the Spanish, which is a little more citrus.
So I've got to ask, just because I'm not a dark spirits girl. And do you think people tend to have a particular loyalty, whether they're going for a gin or a vodka drink or a dark spirits, or is it just people drink what they drink?
I think it's preference, and then I think it's learned too. I think there's a lot of people that don't really like to branch out, and if they know what they like, they're always going to stick with it. I think that's why it's important for me as far as my menu goes, is I have a pretty extensive menu, as I'd like people to try different things. So I try and do things approachably. Like I have a paper plane that's on the menu, which is particularly a bourbon cocktail, but it has different amaros, orange, lemon juice with an orange peel. It really brings out the citrusy, so someone that's not even a bourbon drinker loves it. So I do try and allow difference on there so they can, you know, try something new.
Not that you have to pick your children, but do you have a favorite spirit or one that you personally drink, and then one that you like to work with the most?
Gin. I mean, I am British, are my roots, so gin is my favorite, but I do love my tequila. Love playing with some tequila, especially in the summer, nice spicy margarita. Love it.
What do people kind of crave in the summer? I mean, obviously, as you said, that's tequila, there's the icy drinks. So like summer drinking versus winter drink, what do you kind of see that people are asking for at the Coop?
I mean, summer for us is all about our gin and tonics. That's like, you know, our namesake, our patio. I like to call it our patio pounders, because you can sit in the sun and you can have 3 or 4 of them and they're beautiful. Lots of margaritas this season I've seen. So, you know, the heat, something that keeps it nice and cold and refreshing.
Yeah. So what are kind of some of the basics if people are trying to do their own little mixology course at home? Are there particular things that are good to start with, something like the G&T that's pretty basic but you can elevate with garnishes? Are there, you know, if we have the at-home mixologist who's maybe not quite as comfortable with the craft cocktail as you, are there, is this a good one to start with?
Yeah, I would say this is probably typically a good one to start with. It's so hard. It just depends on what your flavor profile is and what you like, what you kind of have it in the cabinet at home too. Because I know that people that aren't mixologists, like if I go to my family's house, it's always a gin and a bourbon always in the fridge. So it's kind of like whatever you can put together through that.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think the whole craft cocktail and the craft beer scene has really come up a lot over the last few years. So I think people are really, you know, expanding and going out there and trying new whiskeys and trying new tequilas, small batch. So I think that has come a long way. I also see a lot of the younger generation trying old fashions or Manhattans, which typically a few years ago that used to only be in the winter and not really a younger crowd. So definitely seen a whole drink transition in the last couple years.
So how do you elevate something like the sidecar, if I can reach back to something that sounds like an old-fashioned drink to me, as a creative mixologist, as a creator of craft cocktails, what's your approach to those kind of classics?
I say have fun and make some syrups. I mean, syrups are so easy to make at home. You can use fresh juices, herbs, and spices that you have in your kitchen. And all it really is sugar, adding the water, and then whatever herb or spice you would like to it. And that's how I kind of started creating a lot of my cocktails, was just playing around. Like I have one on the menu right now, which is a Chardonnay syrup, and just little things. If you have a preference on flavor, I would start making something, and pretty much it's going to elevate any cocktail. If you do, say, a cinnamon simple syrup for winter, you add it with tequila, bourbon. I mean, use it for cooking. There's a lot of different things, and that's the way I like to look at it too. Is yes, I'm a mixologist, but it's also almost like a chef. We're cooking liquor, and we're creating different recipes with the citruses and the syrups. So I say, if you have a flavor profile, play around and, you know, put it together and see what you like.
Do you find people get intimidated by the idea? I mean, I look at this and I'm like, I could never create this myself, you know? I could never create something.
Look how easy it was.
Do you think people are intimidated by cocktails? Obviously, we're in such a wine-heavy region that's a little, you can build up your breadth of knowledge, but is this scary to people?
Like I said, I think like a few years ago they were, but with Oakland scene and Walnut Creek's cocktails really like coming up, I really think that people are willing to try something new, a different mezcal cocktail or something that's a little obscure. I've definitely seen a lot more people be interested in that. So I think it's
That's great. So I know you mentioned some of the really popular drinks at the Coop. Did we cover kind of all of them, or what's the most popular cocktail item you have?
Obviously I mean, our gin and tonics are definitely hands down our most popular. I would say the paper plane, which is the bourbon and the aperitif one, is very popular. And then also I have our hops and apricots, which I won the Art of Mixology in 2017 for, which is a beer and apricot and bourbon cocktail.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of a different mismatch of things, but you bourbon base, you have apricot, you have orgeat, which is a almond sugar, and then fresh lemon juice, and I top it with the IPA, and that's probably been a staple here for the last few years too. A lot of people come for that because it's something so obscure.
So I do plan on letting you go here. I don't know if your other drink is almost ready. I know you're...
Oh, I'm sorry, I have them right here.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, let's see this lovely concoction.
Okay, so here's the Spanish, which you can't really see, but here is the beautiful.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So that's the Empress gin that gives it that color.
So this is the indigo color. Okay. See how dark it is? This one's kind of a little more fuchsia, and I can actually show you because I don't know if that will really come out. I'll show you the color change when I add the tonic just to the gin.
And I think we're going to run out of time, but I will give people the chance to, if I can make the technology work, if you have any questions in the next minute, feel free to add it to the chat, and we'll see if we can bother Portia for one more minute before she gets into her busy service. Wow.
Color, and then as we add the tonic, it turns into a beautiful fuchsia purple color. So it's a really fun visual. It also tastes fantastic too.
And then on this one, instead of using the lime wheel, you're using a grapefruit. That's correct. Or no?
Yes, for this one I'm using a grapefruit. Yes.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Well, Portia, you have been fabulous. I thank you so much. Let me check real quick before I let you I'll get back to work. Okay, I think we're good. So cheers to you.
Cheers. Now I have 3.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We will be back next week. Ethan will be back at the helm doing his bartender thing. So thank you for letting me fill in this week.
That one.
All right. Can't wait to take this. All right, Portia, some nice Diablo viewers. Thank you so much. And we hope you enjoy us next week in all August. Thank you.